So when I started playing guitar, there were only two brands that were important to me, and those were Gibson and Fender. And that was because my heroes played them. Nowadays, though, my approach to buying guitars is the exact opposite. But it's not just mine. There's a global trend happening with guitar players and small luthiers. And we need to talk about that. Let's go. Play this guitar all day, every day, and I'm not exactly sure why it is. Maybe it's because the neck shape fits my hand perfectly. Maybe it's the immaculate intonation and setup all over the fretboard. Maybe it's the broken end feel or the lightweight body. Maybe it's all of it combined. However, rarely do you find the combination of all these attributes in a Gibson or Fender guitar. Still, most guitar players will buy a Gibson or Fender if they want a new guitar. And why is that? That is because Gibson and Fender are everywhere. If you walk into your guitar center, if you walk into Sweetwater, or if you walk into Thomann here in Europe, the thing is there is a massive amount of Gibson and Fender guitars, and there's a huge selection, so you can find yours. The other reason is that probably your guitar hero played a Gibson or Fender guitar and now you just want one yourself. It's just the fact that Jimi Hendrix didn't play a Shabbat Strat at Woodstock, he played a Fender Strat, right? The other thing is that the resale value feels safe, right? You get the feeling that when you buy a guitar and you end up not liking it later, you can probably sell it within the day just because it says Fender or Gibson on the headstock. And then of course there's the old attitude of if it costs this much, I want the original, which I totally understand. But then why is it that so many known guitar players are actually attracted by all these small luthiers? For instance, you see Justin Derrico, who plays for Pink with his Shabbat signature telly out there. We're also seeing J.D. Simo, Nashville legend, with a Collings guitar. And we have been seeing Steve Stevens with Nax guitars for years at this point. You could even spin this further and look in the amp world and see that Slash is going with Magnatone nowadays, not with Marshall. There's multiple reasons for that, and we're gonna go over a couple now. I think the most important reason for guitar players to go with small luthiers nowadays is the fact that there is a journey behind it and a customer experience that you just don't have with bigger brands. Think about it. When you want to buy a Fender or a Gibson guitar, you're walking into Guitar Center, you're looking at a wall of guitars, and whether you buy that guitar or you don't, nobody really cares about that other than the salesperson who just doesn't get his cut that day. But other than that, nobody really cares if you're buying that guitar or not. There's no face behind the company. You're just seeing the logo, but there's no, attached human connection to that. But when you talk about a small luthier, usually the customer experience doesn't start at Guitar Center. It starts with a conversation or an email. Maybe it even starts with a phone call with the luthier himself, and you can just talk about what you want, what kind of player you are. He can look at stuff that you've played in the past and then make recommendations based on that. At Guitar Center, when you look at the wall of Gibsons, it's love it or hate it. Here's the product offering. Take one or leave it, But when you go to a small builder, it's about what you want. With a small builder, you pretty much have a say in every single step of the manufacturing process. And that's awesome. For instance, look at this Nick Huber Surfmeister right here. This is not their standard model. They have a Surfmeister, but usually it has an F-hole. I wanted a Trini Lopez hole, so Nick Huber made me a Surfmeister with a Trini Lopez hole. Also, usually the Surfmeister comes with a humbucker and a P90. I wanted 2 humbuckers, and I didn't want the Filtertrons. I wanted to have PAFs. No problem whatsoever. I also wanted bigger frets, so I got bigger frets too. And I wanted a mahogany neck instead of a maple neck. No problem. And the result of this process was I got a guitar that's not only aesthetically very, very, very easy on the eyes. I just love the look of that guitar. Also, it sounds incredible. Listen. Wow, man. I get inspired every time I pick up this instrument, and that is definitely not the case with every guitar I ever bought. You know, but that's the thing about these guitars. There is an experience behind it because you were involved in every part of the building process. And also, you know, most luthiers send you photos of every stage of the manufacturing process. You're getting photos of, you know, the wood plank and then the body that has been carved out and then with lacquer and then the final setup and everything. And then it finally arrives at your door. So there's a hype around it and you get to be part of the entire build process. And that is just such a superior customer experience that the big brands just cannot match. You're supporting people who just love what they do. And I think that's also something you need to consider. Like, do you want to shove money down the throat of like a corporation, or do you want to support somebody whose heart and soul is into building a couple guitars to the best of their abilities with just immaculate attention to detail? That at the end of the day is up to you, but I'm pretty sure what I would choose. Now let's talk about quality control here for a second. I have played 12 Nick Hubers in my life, and there was only one out of them that I didn't really like, that just didn't speak to me. It was a good guitar, was set up nicely, did have great intonation, just didn't speak to me. All the other Nick Hubers that I played were immaculate, and I would have taken them home immediately. With Fender and Gibson guitars, it's actually the other way around. You play 15, 16, 17, 20 guitars, and there might be one amongst them. That was the case with my custom shop Fender Telecaster. I'm not a Fender or Gibson hater. I have a Les Paul and I have this Telecaster, and I love these guitars, but I didn't buy them because they were Fenders. I bought them because they happened to be Fenders. I played at least 50 Telecasters in my life, and this is the only one that I still have. So it says something about the consistency of the output of these different brands. And we know with Gibson and Fender, not always great. You have to pretty much find the needle in the haystack. And if you don't want to do that, a guitar that is built by a small luthier like Nick Huber or Collings, you can definitely find your guitar a lot quicker. Just because 9 out of 10, I would definitely assume, are perfect guitars. There might be the eventual slipper, you know, but other than that, with small builders, you're usually getting a much better instrument anyway. But now let's talk about some honest downsides too, because as everything in life, going with a small luthier for your next guitar doesn't only have advantages, it also has a couple of disadvantages, and I want to talk about them really openly here. So the first thing is, obviously, a Nick Huber guitar, a Collings, a Shabbat, or Nags will cost significantly more than your standard Gibson USA or Fender USA models. The question is, if we consider how much money we spent buying and then selling for less, buying again and then selling for less, we have done it throughout our lives with Gibson and Fenders. If we add up all these small losses that we had from buying new and then selling used, isn't that even more than what you would pay for a guitar that you can have for the rest of your life? So this is like a long-term calculation we would have to do here, but yes, the damage in your bank account is much bigger with a guitar like that. There's no way around that. The next downside is resale value, and I totally get that argument because you want to buy something and have somewhat of a safety to get parts of your money back, and I totally understand that. But if you're going with small luthiers who are known worldwide, Huber, Collings, Shabbat, Nags, and others as well, actually the resale value is pretty good. It could just be that the amount of people willing to buy a guitar like that is a niche market, and that's why a sale could take longer. But other than that, actually value of a Nick Huber guitar on the used market, however, there aren't many, so that tells you something about the quality of these products. The resale value is actually very stable. But it is a downside for sure, because you don't know exactly what you're getting out of it if you want to sell the guitar. Maybe one of the most important disadvantages are that you often can't test these out before you buy them, because stores won't have them, you know, in massive amounts. But that's what shows like NAMM are for. That's what other smaller guitar shows are for. That's because there you can test a couple guitars. You can go to, let's say, Fretboard Summit or Guitar Summit in Germany, and you can see so many booths of so many small builders, and you can really go for one that specializes in your niche. Could be vintage guitars, could be metal guitars, and then you can get a feel for the neck shapes, you can get a feel for the guitars that they're offering, and then it's much easier to make a confident order. And yes, these things are super expensive, and we don't want to become guitar snobs, because nobody wants to be that, right? And it's totally fine to buy, you know, off-the-shelf guitars, nothing wrong with that, but I feel like the trend is definitely happening. You can see it everywhere. A lot of guitar players that I know go with small luthiers now, building connections and relationships that way, because the big corporations just do not care as much. And that's it for today. I hope you got something out of this video. These were the reasons why I'm not looking to buy any Gibson or Fender guitars anytime soon. Like, subscribe, check out my guitar courses, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.